Hello, and welcome to the first session of Voices of Healthcare Cloud series. We are excited that you have joined us today, and we have some exciting content to share. Our topic today is how to return to work confidently using the Microsoft Health Cloud. My name is Shelly Avery, and I'm a Senior Technical Specialist for Microsoft Teams focusing on health and life sciences. And my colleague Vasu is also presenting with me today. A couple of housekeeping items before we jump on to the presentation. We encourage you to ask questions. We want you to get your questions or concerns answered. So please use the chat, and Vasu is going to be moderating our Q&A today. They will be moderated, and so we will only share the questions with the full audience if they are public, and we want everyone to see the answers to them. If not, we will answer them one-on-one. This is also being recorded, so if you miss part of it or you want to share it with some of your colleagues, we will have a blog post after the fact with all of the great resources, the recording, and any content that is shared during the session. So one last housekeeping thing. So how do you ask questions? You'll notice in the top right-hand corner of your screen, a little box with question mark. If you click on that, it will bring up a Q&A panel where you can post your questions that will then come into us as moderators so we can answer them either privately or publish them publicly. Thank you. All right, now on to the presentation, what we've all come here today to see. We have two great presenters. We have Nikita, a Microsoft Data and AI Solution Architect, and Pradeep, a Customer Success Director for our health and life sciences customers. They're going to be presenting on two separate solutions that can be used independently or in conjunction with each other to help your employees and your workforce return to work confidently and really focus on making sure we have those health screens covered, making sure they've been participating in social distancing outside of the workplace, and how they can participate in social distancing now that they're returning to the workplace. So with that, let me go ahead and hand it over to Nikita for our first set of presentations for today.
Hi everyone, this is Nikita Pitliya, and I'm a Data and AI Senior Solution Architect in Microsoft's Health and Life Sciences team. And I'm currently based out of San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm very excited to show you the brand new solution called COVID-19 Back to Work presented by Microsoft. So as countries worldwide seek to reopen their economies by relaxing stay-at-home orders, many employers worldwide have asked us, they are thinking on how to make sure that their workplace is safe to return for their employees could be volunteers, staff, or external vendors, etc. And based on many federal and state government rules, there are many rules that have been practicing and many questions about what are the best practices to be followed, some of which include social distancing, protective equipment, temperature checks, sanitation, use of disinfectants, etc. And in this solution, we have focused on monitoring the workforce for indicative symptoms and not allowing symptomatic people, could be employees of the same organization or could be external visitors to the workplace. So for them, there are certain rules that based on their symptoms, they are not allowed to physically enter the workplace until they're clear to do so. And in this series of solutions, we came up with a back to work solution. And some of the major elements of the solution include that there is symptom tracking for essential workers who have been exposed to COVID-19, which could include physicians, nurses, ancillary staff. This is in accordance with CDC guidelines. We have worked with doctors in Microsoft who have direct contacts with the CDC representatives, and we have come up with this set of symptoms that are to be tracked and the set of questions to be asked to identify which employees are safe to return to the workplace versus whom should be asked to stay at home. Then there is a configuration available where you can ask for different set of questions based on symptoms, exposure type, or even the testing status if a patient or a user has undergone testing. Then there are systems available to allow organizations to determine when employees will be safe to return to patient care activities or work. And all of this is supported by Microsoft's industry-leading compliance, privacy, and security portfolio. Now, one thing that is to be noted here is that CDC guidelines or guidelines from other federal and state governments are rapidly evolving. So we do not guarantee to keep the solution updated. However, we are working in conjunction with a lot of teams within Microsoft to make sure you get the customization options that are available to you with the knowledge of the CDC or other public health organization guidelines. So coming to the solution itself, it is divided into 3 major steps. So there are 3 different workflows that we follow. The first one is there is an employee and volunteer registration. So in the last slide where I was mentioning that it could include ancillary staff or the employees themselves, we have also expanded this to make sure that you can expose this particular solution not only for your internal employees, but also for external volunteers or external vendors such as EMS, fire, personnel, etc., who enter the workplace, or could also include maybe the patient's family members, for example. So anyone who is regularly entering the workplace, they are supposed to register, and we only gather the contact information which is required at the most minimum level. The second step of the workflow is a daily screening where there are questions based on do you think you were exposed, and then what are the symptoms that you're facing today. And all the user responses are captured and stored in your chosen Azure specific backend database. So all the data is going to reside in your Azure tenant, and because it's residing, it is captured and stored. So there is ability to integrate that with visualization. One of the most powerful tools that Microsoft provides is Power BI. So there is Power BI reporting on the progress of what the employee registration or what the screening process is looking like. The third step of the workflow includes post-exposure daily tracking. So when a user says that, yes, they were exposed or they are feeling such and such symptoms, then what should be the next set of steps for them to carry on? So that could include that they have to undergo testing or they have to undergo a 14-day quarantine period, etc. So all those necessary steps are provided by the solution as the user interface, but also on the backend to the administrator of the organization, the one who's supervising all of these activities. They get a complete picture of what are the user responses and what is the reporting on the population because of the Power BI visualization that we provide along with the solution. So one important thing to note here is that each organization is responsible for adhering to privacy policies, and Microsoft has come out with 7 principles on what are the privacy policies that are to be adhered during the data collection of COVID-19 crisis specifically. So I'll talk about that in the next slide. So here you can see this is a gist of a blog written by the head of research at Microsoft and the chief legal officer. So I have this blog open here. If you click on this, you can read through. There are 7 major components of the privacy principles that act as guidelines to all organizations who are planning to capture data in the times of COVID-19. And you can see the gist back in the slide deck. So any organization who is planning to use this solution or any other solution from Microsoft, they have to adhere to these guidelines, and I highly recommend you to go through that blog post and keep these 7 principles in mind, some of which are like the one that I spoke about even earlier was that to collect the minimal amount of data. So as minimal amount of data is required, only that much is being captured even in the solution, and that is what is the guideline also. and provide choices to individuals about whether their data is stored or not. So this step could be added very easily in the very beginning of the registration to obtain meaningful consent from each user within your organization if they are okay for their PHI, PI to be collected and stored or not. So I highly recommend you that you go through the principles first before checking this solution. Now, as part of the back to work solution template overall, there is a HealthPod template already available in the HealthPod service admin portal. So Healthcare Bot service is a health bot that has already been deployed by over 1,500 customers of Microsoft for triage and assessment of COVID-19. So beginning the March of this year, there were many cases of the COVID-19 pandemic coming out, and because the frontline workers were not able to, they were feeling highly overwhelmed because of the burden that they suddenly faced of patients coming in for tests of COVID-19, even for common symptoms like flu or cold. So at that point, we developed this COVID-19 assessment tool, which was used by CDC, Providence, many of our other customers, and it is being used at a very high rate, not only to reduce the incoming patient volumes, but also to reduce the incoming call volumes, or the FAQs that it provides helps to reduce the patients walking into a center for testing or for just regular checkups, or even the call volumes. So in the same platform called the Healthcare Bot service that is available in the Azure Marketplace, we have brought this back to work as another template that helps you take all the algorithm that I spoke of earlier in the form of elements and the 3 key steps, and we have packaged it here, and you can use it right away. So this went GA on the 20th of May, and it is available for your use right away. So I highly recommend you to go check this, the Healthcare Bot service, and the first one is the back to work template. So talking about the overall solution, the template that I spoke of, where the Healthcare Bot is at the core, and then it is talking to the Azure API for FHIR as the backend service. Now, for those who are not familiar with the FHIR server, there is HL7 regulation for HL7 FHIR as one of its components, where FHIR is one of the major components responsible for data interoperability between the different health systems. So integration between the different EHRs, EMRs, risk arrangements, etc. is highly feasible because of the FHIR regulation. And Microsoft is heavily pushing through its vision to make data interoperable across the multiple health systems by using Azure API for FHIR. So Azure API for FHIR is a service that went GA in October of last year, 2019, and is highly recommended for all the health systems that want to integrate this patient data, whether you collect it during COVID-19 or post-COVID-19. All the PHI, PAI is highly recommended to be stored in FHIR so that it can be used in conjunction with health data in other systems as well. However, we also understand that not all systems, not all of our Microsoft customers are going to be healthcare organizations, or are not going to have the same level of familiarity with Azure API for FHIR as they have with Azure SQL database. And that is why we also provide the second option of having Azure SQL database as your backend service. And for that, the core is still the Healthcare Bot, which is writing via REST API calls using Azure Functions back to Azure SQL database. And once the data is in either the FHIR or SQL database, then it is very easy to have Power BI connectors, connect data, and get visualizations out of this data. Now, what is the front end looking like? So to talk about the front end, let's move to the left-hand side of the architecture diagram here. So we have enabled Azure Functions to send out email notifications at a specific time. Could be daily 8 a.m., for example, or could be twice a day for symptomatic patients or for patients in the quarantine. So for them, we're able to send email notifications on a website, could be internal website, a SharePoint website, etc., or on Teams or Twilio as other channels of integration. And once the channel has been established, then it talks back to the healthcare bot service, which has the algorithm and all the different questions that you would want to ask for either exposure, symptoms, or lab tests. So for the UI channels, overall, there is website, which is enabled using a term called web chat. Then there is Microsoft Teams, which is our, so that's the recommended form. And I'm going to show you in the demos why we recommend Microsoft Teams. Then there is Twilio, Facebook, and Telegram, which are enabled by default by the healthcare bot as UI channels. So how a typical end-to-end workflow would look like is there is going to be a email notification or an automated notification on one of your chosen channels. Then the user is going to answer a set of questions that the healthcare bot poses to that user. And based on the user responses, all the required and the minimum amount of data is captured in the chosen backend database, which then automatically creates the Power BI visualizations. And all services that are available in this solution are covered under the existing BA with Microsoft. So as I was talking about the Power BI reporting models, this is a basic model that is going to be available with the solution so that you can get started on your Power BI journey. So we are providing 4 different pages. The summary page, which is going to be an executive level report, then information about screenings, which are everyday screenings for people who have taken the assessment. Then the third one is going to be quarantine, which means that if 1,500 odd users have taken the test on that day, how many were asked to stay in quarantine? So there is a detailed reporting of only these 453 users that are in quarantine right now. Then how many users missed the screening on a particular day, that there is a separate report for that. And as you can see in the report here, we are providing very granular details of you can filter this down based on age groups, based on states, or even based on rules. You can add not just the frontline workers or the healthcare workers, but if there are interns or if this is a university or an advanced medical center, you can also add roles like a student or an IT admin, etc. So based on the custom options that you need, all the data that is residing in the database can be modified. We can add more columns, and accordingly the Power BI reports will change. So before I move on to the demo, I would quickly like to show you that there are some of the resources to help you get started. The first one is the Quick Start, which is provided on the tech community blog right here, which talks about how to use the healthcare bot service along with Azure API for Fire. The one that I showed you is already available on the healthcare bot service page. Then there are other resources that are available to help you get started on your journey with the healthcare bot service. There is an entire video series on the tech community blog that you can leverage to help you identify how you can best use the healthcare bot service. And for next steps, I highly encourage you to validate the requirements and the success criteria by meeting with your Microsoft account team, and then look for what are the deployment options. Some of the common deployment options we've seen are first, one of the Microsoft architects from your account team can help you provide guidance. Then the second one is one of our qualified partners can help you implement the service on your behalf. And the third one is to self-deploy using Microsoft's online resources. There is a variety of resources available right now on the tech community and many other public platforms. So you can leverage those and self-deploy. However, the biggest takeaway from our previous deployments and our experience working with the healthcare bot and the COVID-19 response templates has been that you need to plan, build, deploy, and evaluate and iterate as soon as possible. So taking a phased approach is highly, highly important so that you can understand what is the capability of HealthBot and how best you can evolve your solution to customize it based on your organization's needs. With that, let me show you a quick demo. First, using website, which was the first UI channel that I spoke of. So once you configure the healthcare bot service and follow the steps on how to bring it to an Azure app service in the form of a website, then you're going to see that there is this back to work, and this is a demo bot that we use internally at Microsoft. So I'm using this so that you can see that within just one health bot, there are multiple scenarios that you can trigger right away. So the extensibility and feasibility of multiple features being embedded into the health bot is highly extensive. So the one that I want to show you is the fourth option here, which is called back to work. So when I click on this, the scenario gets triggered, and these are the set of questions that are going to be asked. So the first one is just a notice on what the developers should look for before starting off this. And then all of this can be customized. You can remove any of the messages that you want to, or change any of the sentences that you want to. So let me answer the questions. Have you registered before? No. And so in the registration form, it asked me for just 4 very basic details, and unique ID and year of birth is going to be useful when I log in the next time. So it acts as a combination of login credentials. The next question is, have you been exposed? And here I would say that yes, I was exposed, and the date of yesterday. So when I submit, it records all these, and then it asks me for what are the symptoms that I'm experiencing today. So let me say fever and cough. And because I chose that I have fever, so it's going to ask me what is my temperature. And are you experiencing any of the following symptoms? Let me say none. And have I been tested? No. So here you can see based on my answers, because I did say that I was exposed and I also have some of the symptoms. So here I get a notice that you're not clear to work, please stay at home. Now, this is how the experience looks like on the Azure website. The second demo I would like to show you is on the Teams client, and moving to my Teams client here in the chat. Okay, so using the bot ID, when I search for the bot ID here, then I can see the Smarter Health, which is the bot's name, in my Teams client. And here again, as I said, you can send automated notifications, etc. at a specified time. And here I need to type the wake word for the demo purposes. And with this wake word, the same scenario will trigger itself. Sorry, I'm having some internet troubles now. So once the scenario begins, then you can see there's the demonstration notice and the welcome message. But if you notice in the please complete the form, the name auto populates, and this is why I was earlier suggesting that this is the recommended form of using the UI channel, because there is built-in Azure AD authentication, and because the user is already logged into the Teams client, so we do not ask for the user to log in again. So this is auto-populated, and because it is pre-authenticated, this provides a more seamless experience to the user. So here, let me just go ahead and fill in one form. So the next time when I log in, it'll still have my Azure AD credentials and it'll log me in again without me having to provide the unique combination of unique ID and year of birth. So now it is asking me, have I been exposed? Let me say no. And based on the symptoms, let me just answer this none. And if this still takes so much time, I am going to switch off my video for the next few seconds so I can complete this demo. Okay, yeah, I think now this will go faster. And am I experiencing any of the following symptoms? Let me again select none, so I can show you what the easy pass looks like. And have I been symptom free for at least 3 days? This is the final check to say whether the user is clear to work. So here you can see based on my answers, here I was allowed to go to work. So according to your answers, you can go to work. So this way you can use the same scenario either on a website or on a Teams channel, Teams being a recommended platform. With that, I pass back to Shelly. Thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you, everyone. That was great, Nikita. Thank you for showing off the 2 bot scenarios. And next, we are going to move over to Pradeep, who is also going to talk about a return to work scenario. So now that employees have been cleared to return to work, how do we get them safely back into the office and making sure they're still working within the social distancing guidelines? So Pradeep, thanks so much and welcome.
Thank you, Shelly and Nikita, a great solution. So as you can see, what Nikita showcased is where the employees are asked, they need to check if they can return to work first. In some cases, they're not ready to come back to work, or in some cases they are. So let's assume that the employees are ready to come back to work. Then next what? So we want to make sure that before the employees come back to work, we have to think about the office location. How much space is there in the office? And typically what we are getting to notice is some offices which typically used to sit 300 people because of the social distancing measures, local jurisdiction laws, and the way the facility is built, right? Sometimes it might just seat 30 people, or it can sit all 300, or it can only sit 100 per se. So in that particular case, the employees need to actually reserve the space before they come to work. So once the bot clears me or some clears me to come to work, the employees, what should they do? Where they could go ahead and reserve that space to come back to work. Then there is a third scenario also, which we might not address in this demo, but I just want to talk about it for a second, that we also have some partner solutions where let's assume that the employee got cleared to work. I reserve my space to come back to work on next Monday. I'm good to go. I got my seat. Before I enter the location or the facility, sometimes you need to take some temperature to see if the employee is still safe to come back to work, and that's where the sensor-based health monitoring, like a physical device, comes into play. And we have partners who have built this solution. But in this conversation, we are not going to focus on this. We're just going to focus on the space reservation aspect. So coming to the space reservation, the way we kind of thought about this is we wanted to provide a solution to the customers, which many of the customers might already own. So we have a solution called Ships. With the original purpose of Ships was to actually have employees, right, like, reserve a shift, such as a retail worker wanting to reserve a shift when they go to the store, or a frontline worker reserve a shift before they go to work, right? Replace the word shift with a space, seat, cube, whatever you want to. We can use the same exact solution called Shifts, which is already built inside Teams, which is already there, which works amazingly across your desktop, mobile, or your browsers to work efficiently. And you can use the same solution for space management, right? So very simple steps. Just need to rethink how you use it. And what we did is we talked about a few personas here, right? Like, typically when we spoke to a couple of facility managers at various customers, what we noticed is facilities is a global team with some local authority to each facility manager or office manager, however you want to call them, and they are typically responsible to have the cleaning crew get it cleaned, space efficiency, to visualize the facility and say that, hey, I want to place certain people so far away, and I want to put a visual marker that people can sit here, sit here, sit here, because they are 6 feet, 13 feet, 3 feet, how much ever the local jurisdiction law says it. They are so much apart, and I want to open it up. Once I open it up, naturally the employees want to reserve the space. Once they reserve this place, maybe they want to have the managers of the employees, or who are the office administrators or the departmental admins, approve that the employee should come back to work, and naturally the bot has to clear them as well. So, and then after that, maybe the employees need to be, let's assume the employees got a space on floor 11. We don't want the employee to roam around in floor 13 where it's already crowded, right? So how can we take that data and give it to the security team so that they can keep the employees on a certain floor, not let them roam around everywhere and overcrowding again? So we kind of thought about all these scenarios, and luckily Ships does answer that, right? So in this demonstration, what I'm going to do is let me actually showcase how this functionality looks for a facility manager, an employee, and I'm going to discuss a few other additional scenarios. So let's go ahead. Now, so before we go, I want to show how this might look for a facility manager or an office departmental admin. Typically, when you take a facility, let's assume that you have a facility in a location called Princeton. Your Princeton facility might have multiple floors. So you want to publish your space scheduling directly in the Princeton. So here, let me showcase that. First, you need to have a team called Princeton office. Let's assume you don't have one. You can create one very easily. I'm not going to showcase how to create teams in this demo, but let's assume that you have a team called Princeton office, in which you have all the members, all the employees who report to the Princeton office as the members. The facility manager or the office administrator needs to be the owner, right? So you created a team, great, you have one channel, that's fine. Let's go ahead, you have all the employees whom you want to be as the members, good. So all you need to do is your IT administrator of Teams needs to enable this thing called Shifts inside the Teams admin console. Simple three-step process. Let's assume they have enabled it, right? There are links on the bottom of the blog. We're going to show you how to enable the Shifts functionality. So let's go ahead. Let's assume they have enabled it. Once you click on Shifts, you have the option to publish. Let's assume if you are reporting to multiple locations, you can get multiple locations. But in this particular case, I am going to show you how that you could, let's assume there is a building called Princeton in which all your and for this particular purpose, the building has few floors. You can create a one shift schedule for all of Princeton office, or you can create one schedule or a group type, what we call, for each floor. So in this example, let me showcase. I did not publish it in this demo, but let's assume that I have 3 different floors. As you can see, I have already published a floor top. For a floor, I have published certain shifts. So let's take a floor which I already did not publish it for, and let's go ahead and publish one right here. So in this particular section, like let's assume that I'm opening up my office tomorrow and the 12th floor is clean. I want to publish some open shifts here. Again, whenever I use the word shifts, think about spaces, cubicles, open spaces. So all I need to do is here I'm going to say section A, 12th floor, right? And in some cases, some offices might call it sections, wings, zones, whatever you want to call it, you can call it. You can just give it a name. I have said if it has the floor has a color code, go ahead and use it. Otherwise, you can use the theme colors for visualization purposes. Typically, this floor, let's assume it used to sit 300 people. Because of social distancing, it cannot. So we're going to make it 45. We're going to call it an open shift. We're going to add some daily activities here. Clean your tabs, right? Clean your desk. I'm not able to spell today properly. Clean your desk. Actually, they don't want to get paid for cleaning their hands, so let's say no for that, and then done. So as you can see, what I did is I just created a simple shift, and then I added some activities here. I can put some notes here saying that for more information, go to whatever link.com/link you want to post, go ahead and post it. And then all I did was create this button called save. So when I created, as you can see, it created the shift. I can just take this shift and paste it vertically and edit it, or I can take the same shift or copy it from a particular range to other range. This once I click this button copy, it's going to copy it. So if, for example, let's go back to the 11th floor for an example. As you can see, what I did is I made multiple shifts here for different sections. And as you notice where my mouse, I'm just going to take it away. As you can notice right there, it says that that floor on section A has 30 people, section E has 15 slots open, and the same view I can show in a different way, like, you know, how many of them have been assigned, how many are there still open. So you get different view for the facility managers to take a look of how many shifts you opened up, or how many open clean spaces you opened up, and how many are still open, right? So once I do that, I can go ahead and copy the schedule, as I mentioned, right? Like, you know, from this day to this day, you want to run the same operations the next week, the same way the next week. The facility manager, the office admin, whatever that role persona might be, just clicks that copy schedule, and then boom, as you can notice right here, you're copying a schedule from one to another. And then the people who are coming to the office next day, the next week, can go ahead and reserve those open spaces, right? Very, very, very simple approach. The good thing about this approach is it works on your desktops, on your mobile, on your browsers. It's already built into Teams right here, and you can pin it right there, right? So, and then once you do it, you can go ahead and share it with the team. There are a few more settings which are available for the admins right here, such as you can have approvals where the office administrator has to approve it, which is the default behavior. Or you can ask, you can have an auto approval in place where in case you don't want to bog down your office admins with approvals, right? Just put an auto approval. There's a Power Automate workflow which we have already created and we have published, and the link is going to be somewhere on the bottom of this blog. You can see it on how to do it. And there are additional settings too. So let's assume that some customers have said as like, you know, we want to make sure the employees are really coming to the work. They're not reserving the seats and they're not coming to the work. You don't want that scenario. So could you do some time clocking? Could you do some GPS tracking where when the employee on their mobile phone has the mobile phone, they go near that office within the 200 yards of that office where you put the latitude, longitude settings, it will notice that the employee was here and records it as well. The good thing is, everything which we are showing you, you can power it by Office 365 Graph API if you want to expose this to some other solution too, or pump the data in here, or retrieve the data for audit or logging as well. So now let's move on to the end user interface of how the end user sees. So in this particular scenario, what I did is I'm going to pull a different browser where I logged in as Mr. Diego right here. And as you can see, Diego, when he logs in, right, he's a user, he sees which floors have what, but he does not see how many are open. If the spaces are taken on section W and all of them are gone, Diego does not get to see that. That is gone. So all Diego has to do is, let's assume Diego wants to come tomorrow. request, and boom, when you request, as you can see, he's seeing that link, the activities, and then he can go ahead and request any schedule you want. This one is set up for an auto approval, so in a minute or so, it is going to get approved, okay? But in case if you want to set it up for a manual approval, you can have it, and the owners of the team, if you remember I said there's an owner and a member, the owners can approve that request, right? So in this particular case, let's go ahead and see it is still pending approval, which means the workflow did not yet kick it in, but as you can see in some cases, it was auto approved, right? So that is how it sees. So let's go ahead and see if there is, in the same format, once the shift is approved, I can take this shift, like in the previous case, I already have some shifts which are approved. I can say that, in typical manufacturing facilities or most common areas, you always want one person from a particular department be there on site to represent the department. Right. In that particular case, let's assume all of a sudden Diego is not feeling well. He has to homeschool his kids, whatever the scenario might come up. But he wants to swap it up with his team member. He can say that whether he wants to take a time off and why he's taking a time off. He can say that whether it's homeschooling or really there is a crisis at home. I hope not. Or Diego can say that I want to swap it. I want to swap it with some person. Whom am I going to swap it? He can put, or he can offer it back to the facility manager who can put it back in the queue so that other people can take it. Again, when I use the word shift, think about spaces, okay? And this can also be automated behind the scenes. We have published some Power Automate's workflows, some templates already. You should find it somewhere in this blog, in the link below. Okay, so this is how a typical end user interface looks like. As I said, great interface, works right in the browser, works right on the Teams client. Now let's see how. I'm not going to demo. I'm not prepared to demo this in the short time frame on a web browser on a mobile device. So as you can see in the mobile device, if this is your mobile device, you're using an Android device, Shift is right here. When you click those three dots right there, which are somewhere hidden behind, you click the three dots right there, it opens up and it shows this thing called Shifts. You click that, this new thing comes around, and as you can see, the end user can interact directly from a web browser, from a mobile device. Very, very, very unique, very, very, very simple. Now, as we move forward, let's go ahead and I want to showcase one other scenario which was generally asked. The scenario which we thought about is, let's assume, as Nikita has said, let's go ahead and ask the employees to see if they're clear to work, if they're feeling well. The bot allows them, it gives the clearance, the approval comes, the employee goes through shifts to schedule their spaces, they come to work. They want to come to work, and all of a sudden the facilities manager wants to say that the cafeteria is not going to be open from 1 to 2, but it's going to be open from 1 to 3 because we don't want to overcrowd the cafeteria. So relax, don't worry, the cafeteria is still open. They want to send a communication. So right within Teams, the facilities manager can use this thing called facilities communicator bot. All we did is we took the communicator bot, which is a team, which is already created. It is there in the Teams app templates blog, which we're going to link it up below. You can go ahead and deploy it. Pretty simple to deploy it. And we just reskinned it, renamed it, called facilities communicator bot. In this scenario, as you can see the facilities. The facilities can say that here are the new cafeteria timings. We don't want to overcrowd the cafeteria. It's going to be, instead of 1 to 2, it's going to be open from 1 to 3. Feel free to jump in whenever you need to. And here is the schedule. Or let's assume that there is some problem in some area and the facilities team wants to send that communication. You can send it right directly through here. Now, let's move forward to another scenario which we're commonly asked. What if the facilities manager wants to give a bot to the end user so that they can ask a simple question? So here, as you can see in this particular case, I can go ahead and ask, where is the floor plan? This facilities manager's bot was quite frankly built on a simple thing called, we built it on something called FAQ plus bot template. Very simple. Again, it's already built. You just need to use it and rename it the way you want it. It looks like it does not want to respond to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's a little pissed at me. But let's go ahead and take a look here. Like in a similar scenario, is the cafeteria open? As you can see, it is responding back with saying that, yes, the cafeteria is open and here is the link for if you want to get some timings. Or you can say that, hey, I have a specific question. Do they serve some special needs menu? Please go ahead and ask the manager. When you ask the manager, it opens up a ticket for the manager and the manager can respond back to it, or can add that question back to the loop so that the next person can make it easier. So there's some ticketing system already in place here. Again, this is already built in the apps templates. Feel free to use it. Now, there is the other scenario which we always, which the customers have mentioned is, what if the employees want to report an incident? The common things which customers said is the back door of my, because if the office has multiple doors and you did not put them, you did not put temperature monitorings across all the doors and only some entrances are monitored. Maybe you want to show that back to the employee. So if, like, in this particular case, what we said is, like, if you can have typical FAQs, you can have incidents, like, for example, the soap ran out in the bathroom, or there is no sanitizer in the kitchen. These are all incidents. Someone needs to act on it. Employees cannot remember who, where do I need to send the email to. So in the same bot, the people can go ahead and click that report incident. They click report incident. It is going to ask you what incident you want to report it. You can click incident. Sanitizer. You can basically go ahead and say that, hey, there is no sanitizer in this particular floor. You report the incident. It opens up a ticket back to the facilities manager. They can work on it and they can close it. Or you can just, if your facilities teams uses some other ticketing system, you can work with that too. It just sends it right there. Okay. So this is something called Facilities Communicator Bot. To summarize, let's go back for a second. To summarize, what we wanted to show you is we want to give you a independent but a combinable solution set. That's what we did. Nikita did an awesome job of showing you how the employee volunteer self-screening can be used, go through the approvals, how you can use Shifts functionality within Teams, already built, already part of pretty much every enterprise SKU, right? Which most of the customers do have. And then how you could use the workplace distancing and space reservation using Shifts. And then if you have a requirement for sensor-based health monitoring, reach out to your account team. We have partner solutions already built on Microsoft technologies. You can go ahead and we'll get you connected to those partner solutions, and you pretty much have a holistic solution you want, which has the APIs where it can connect through multiple systems as well. So back to you, Shelly. Do we have any questions on the thread?
Pradeep, yes, thank you so much. We do have a few questions. Some of them are.
Let me grab those questions real quick, Shelly. So the first question, Pradeep, that we have is, what if we don't have Teams rolled out? Are there any alternatives, or do you have any recommendation on how to get this going quickly?
So Shifts functionality, again, as you can see, as I mentioned, right, like, we kept it independent because we know not every customer might be comfortable with they want some pieces of it. We kept it independent. Shifts is part of Teams, right? So you need to have Teams rolled out to use Shifts. Hold on. Sometime in the very near future, we're going to have some other announcement where you can do the same functionality using some other solution as well. So keep the Teams blog, watch on the Teams blog post. We'll hopefully in sometime near future, we're going to post that too. So, which is independent of Teams, which is also something you can roll out very fast.
Got it. Thank you. There's a question for Nikita. How many languages does the healthcare part service support? Do you have any insights that you can share?
Yeah, so by default, all the pre-built templates are supported in 9 different languages locales, which include English, French, Chinese, Italian, German. And with regards to the custom templates that you build, then you will have to add the strings that you want to add. But it's available, 9 different languages and many more.
Awesome. Thanks, Nikita. There's another question, probably for the two of you combined. Can we add the assessment bot to a SharePoint online-based intranet site? And can we surface that through Teams by pinning it to the left rail or something on those lines? Can you guys comment on that?
So the answer to both is yes. The first one, there are many customers who are already using the assessment bot, be it just the assessment that was used by CDC or the back to work template. So any of those bots can be surfaced using SharePoint Online. Many customers are doing that for their internal employees, and it can be surfaced the same scenario because HealthBot supports not only website but also by just enabling Microsoft Teams. The same infrastructure can be brought surfaced on Teams. So it's very easy to bring it on the left pane of Teams app.
Thanks, Nikita. I'm looking through. I think most of the questions are around how to get those resources and how do you actually go about solutioning for this. So if you guys have any thoughts on what kind of help and support our customers can get through the Microsoft account teams that they work with or independently on the blogs, what's your thought process around how to go about solutioning and mapping these out?
So I think, again, I'll take that question. Nikita, feel free to drop in and answer, add commentary over there. Again, it depends from customer to customer. The solutions, again, as we mentioned, we kept it simple. We kept it so that you can use them, modify them however you wish. Again, you can reach out to your account team if you need some help. I'm quite sure that if you have your support team, the Premier team can help, the MCS can help, the partners are already aware of these solutions, they can help. Quite frankly, these are very simple solutions. We kind of kept it very simple so that you can use it very easily. As you can, if you go back to the blogs and read it, right, like, some custom additional scenarios, we kind of commented on them, on how to solve them. But again, when you talk to your facilities team, when you talk to your security team, when you talk to your return to work committee, the requirements might not be exactly like what we publish. Every customer is different, every vertical is different, every jurisdiction is different, so it might change. But you can pretty much connect this with your existing solutions. That's the way we felt about it, and that's the way it's designed. Nikita, you want to add anything else over there?
Yeah, so as Pradeep said, we have kept it as a very generic template, be it the assessment board or the Shifts API. And that was on purpose so that while you talk to your account team or to one of the partners, you start with the base template, and then on top of it, you can add your customizations. So we've had customers who said that, okay, we need different types of login credentials, not the one that is presented on the template, or we need a different set of symptoms, not the ones that are presented on the template. So the tweaks are very simple to make, and you can just get up and running with the Azure API for Fire one within 20 minutes. So the blog that I showed you for Azure API for Fire, that really is a self-deploy option. And again, I told this during my presentation that first, please do reach out to your account teams, and they will be able to best guide you based on what your specific requirements are.
There's perhaps one final question, guys, which is around what if people have follow-ups specific to these blogs? What's your recommendation on how they can connect back or give you guys feedback? And if there'll be any follow-ups on this discussion.
I think this discussion is going to be continuing, right? Like, as I mentioned, these are the initial things which we came up with in the workplace distancing and space reservation. We are looking at 2 other solutions, which hopefully in the near future, if we're going to announce that. We cannot comment until we kind of have that ready, get set to go. So that's the reason we are not giving a date or giving information on that. If you have any questions on this, just go ahead and in the blog, in the bottom, you'll see something called conversations. You can just post it. You can mention us or Vasu or Shelly as well, and then we'll respond back to you that way too. So we are always watching these blogs. If there are any questions, we all will respond and help. Our thought process, quite frankly, for creating all this work, it's not just us, right? Like, there was a greater team behind this. So when the team, we wanted to help the customers with simple solutions so that they can get their companies opened up, the economy opened up safely, and keep the community safe as well. So that's the reason we are trying to do our best, coming up with the simplest generic versions of solutions which can help you. But feel free to reach out, right? Like, post on the bottom, and then we will respond back to you very shortly. Nikita, you want to add anything else? Shelly, it's for you as well.
Yeah, just the same as Pradeep said.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the wonderful presentations. I don't think we have any more questions. So, Shelly, back over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, team. What a great job today. We really enjoyed all of the content. For all of our attendees, I have a resource slide presented now. I know you can't actually click these links, so we will update our blog post with the recording, and we will include all of these great resources that Nikita and Pradeep have put together for us. We do want to call out the overall health and life sciences blog has a ton of great content, and we will be continuing this Voices of Healthcare Cloud series. We plan on doing at least one a month, so please come back and join us. It will be the same day and time, but we might do them more frequently than once a month as relevant topics come up. So we thank you all for joining us, and hopefully you will continue to follow the blog and join us again as we have another series of Voices of Healthcare Cloud. Thank you so much, and hope to see you all again in the next series.